So if someone stops you on the street or catches you in the hallway at work and they ask you how your day was, what do you usually say?
I mean, you probably say something like, "Oh, it was fine," or "I was really busy."
Right. It's always fine or busy.
Yeah.
But think about, like, the profound linguistic failure of those two sentences. I mean, the person listening to this right now, you just experienced 24 hours of visceral stress, sudden caffeine spikes, and, weird, slightly uncomfortable interactions on the bus.
Yeah, not to mention the deep existential dread about your inbox.
Exactly. You are living this incredibly complex, messy, vibrant human experience. And yet, when you open your mouth to describe your reality, out comes this flat, binary stick figure summary. Like, I woke up, I worked, I went home.
It's tragic, honestly. It's a complete underselling of your own life.
It really is. So why do we do it? Why is it that even when people have a vast English vocabulary, they freeze up and just default to, I had a busy day?
Well, it's a defense mechanism, mostly, but it's also a major linguistic gap. Like when people learn a second language, or even when they're just trying to optimize their native tongue, they focus heavily on academic terms.
Right, or business jargon, survival phrases.
Exactly. You learn how to debate macroeconomics or, how to ask for directions to the train station. But we almost completely ignore the emotional, highly nuanced vocabulary required to describe the mundane reality of just being a human being on a Tuesday afternoon.
Yeah, we lack the words for those micro stresses. Or the quiet moments of joy, or that feeling of staring blankly at your closet wondering why you own, like, 7 striped shirts.
Oh, I totally do that.
Right, we all do. And that gap is exactly what we are dismantling today. Welcome to the Deep Dive. We have a fascinating piece of source material to work through today. It's a transcript of an unscripted, highly candid conversation between two people named Anne and Jake.
And they aren't debating philosophy or anything. They're just talking about their daily routines. But because they're speaking naturally, their dialogue is just an absolute goldmine of advanced native level phrasing.
We are talking about B2 to C1 level English idioms here. And our mission today is to equip you, yes, you, the third person hanging out in the room with us, with the vocabulary to completely transform the way you narrate your own life.
We want to move you away from the mechanical, I am busy, and give you the words to capture the actual color and texture of your day. And we aren't just going to read definitions at you. We're acting as your personal language coaches today.
Your supportive English tutors. We are going to analyze not just what Anna and Jake say, but the psychology behind why they say it. We're looking at the rhythm, the context, and how to use these in bite-sized chunks.
Because having the right word for a stressful situation doesn't just make you sound more fluent. It actually changes your cognitive relationship to the stress itself.
So let's start where the day starts, ground zero. The moment the alarm rings and shatters the peace.
Ugh, the worst part of the day.
Truly. And when we look at the source text, there is this striking contrast between how our two speakers handle this exact moment. Anna describes her morning routine as quirky. It involves this, quiet, complex negotiation with her alarm clock.
Whereas Jake, conversely, describes waking up feeling completely scattered. He says he sits on the edge of his bed like a confused penguin.
A confused penguin. I mean, what a brilliant visual. But let's break down Anna's word first. Quirky.
Quirky is a fascinating place to start because it carries a very specific psychological weight. It describes something that is a bit strange, maybe unconventional, but crucially, it frames that strangeness in an endearing or interesting way.
Right, it's cute. By calling her routine quirky, Anna is taking ownership of a habit that might otherwise just seem chaotic.
Exactly. I mean, she negotiates with her alarm. She bargains for 5 more minutes of sleep, promising the universe that she'll be a responsible adult afterward. It's a slightly weird habit, but calling it quirky removes the shame from it.
It's an act of self-compassion. Let's actually do an auditory drill right here. We promise to be coaches, so let's coach. How do we say quirky naturally?
Okay, so the phonetic breakdown here is really important. The QU makes a Q sound. You really need to round your lips for this. Key, W-U.
Like you're going to whistle almost.
Yes. Key, W-E, key. And the stress is heavy on that first syllable. Q-I-R, key. Say it with us right now, wherever you're listening. Quirky.
It's such a fun word to say. But Anna does admit that she sometimes loses that quirky negotiation. She says she goes overboard with the snooze button.
Going overboard, we use this phrase all the time, but the imagery is quite intense if you stop and think about it.
It implies a total loss of balance, right? Like falling off a boat.
Exactly. To go overboard means to do too much of something, to cross a line from reasonable to excessive, One tap of the snooze button is a normal human indulgence.
Sure.
But hitting it 4 times to the point where you are now fundamentally late and panicked, that's going overboard. You've fallen off the ship of your own intentions.
Ooh, I like that. The ship of your own intentions. Let's drill the pronunciation on that one, too. Overboard.
This stress here is on the very first letter. Overboard. Overboard. Listen to the natural rhythm. I went a little overboard.
I went a little overboard. Try saying that out loud.
Mm-hmm.
I went a little overboard. You know, I actually think of this morning negotiation, the hitting of the snooze button like signing a terrible, predatory financial contract.
Oh, wow. How so?
Well, you hit the button and you get this immediate short-term loan of 5 minutes of sleep.
Yeah.
But you are going to pay astronomical interest on that loan later in the morning.
That is painfully accurate.
Right. When you're rushing to find your keys, when you're sweating on the train, that is the interest you're paying for going overboard. You put your nervous system in debt to the clock.
And that is exactly the dynamic Jake is trying to avoid when he talks about feeling scattered. To be scattered means your focus is thrown in a dozen different directions. Nothing is unified.
You're just in pieces.
Yeah. When Jake wakes up, he says his mind is incredibly noisy, especially if he looks at his phone too quickly. The influx of emails, news, and notifications scatters his attention before he has even formulated a single coherent thought.
So we want to ask you, the listener, think about your own morning right now. Are you a jump-out-of-bed superhero, or are you a negotiate with the alarm type? Do you wake up feeling grounded or scattered?
And I challenge you to narrate your own morning routine aloud right now. Pause the audio if you have to. Try to use the word quirky to describe one of your habits, like maybe you always put your left sock on before you write. That's quirky.
Jake actually has a very specific countermeasure for that scattered feeling.
Mm-hmm.
He forces himself to sit on the edge of the bed for 30 seconds. He just breathes, like the penguin. He doesn't touch his phone. It sounds almost aggressively simple, but from a cognitive standpoint, what is that 30-second pause actually doing?
It's an interruption of the default stress response. So when we wake up, especially to an alarm, our bodies experience a spike in cortisol. If you immediately compound that biological stress with digital stress from a smartphone...
You're just adding fuel to the fire.
Exactly. Your brain shifts instantly into a reactive state. You're no longer driving your day, you're just defending yourself against it. Jake's 30 seconds of sitting is essentially a buffer zone.
It tells the nervous system that there's no immediate danger.
Right, which stops that scattered feeling from taking root. And Anna has her own version of this buffering, but it revolves around breakfast.
Oh, this part of the transcript was hilarious, but also deeply profound. She talks about the difference between eating toast and making a green smoothie.
Yes. She says she eats toast because toast is honest, whereas a highly complex, aesthetically pleasing green smoothie is just marketing.
I love that so much. Toast is honest. It's such a brilliant critique of this whole modern optimization culture.
It really is. We're constantly bombarded with messaging that a successful day requires this mathematically perfect morning routine. You know, meditation, journaling, a complex nutritional shake, a 10-kilometer run.
Was the time.
Nobody. Anna is pointing out that sometimes attempting to execute the Instagram version of a morning causes more stress than it alleviates. Toast is honest. It requires almost zero cognitive load. It doesn't ask you to perform for an imaginary audience. It just feeds you.
It's the total rejection of the performative morning. And, you know, this brings up a crucial point about language acquisition, too. When you were trying to narrate your day in English, you don't need to invent this glamorous life. You just need to accurately describe the honest one.
Exactly. You can use a word like quirky to describe the fact that you talk to your houseplants while waiting for the coffee to brew. It brings texture to the mundane.
So based on the source text, we have 3 specific morning activities to avoid feeling overwhelmed. 1, sit on the edge of the bed for 30 seconds to breathe, like Jake. 2, choose a simple, honest breakfast like Anna's toast. And 3, avoid the phone to stop the mind from becoming noisy.
Which is great advice, because the morning routine, whether it involves honest toast or a marketing smoothie, is really just the prelude. The real cognitive test begins the moment you survive that morning negotiation and face the great departure.
The moment you step out the door, we are thrust into the transitional limbo of the commute. And again, our source material gives us 2 vastly different psychological approaches to this space.
Yeah, Anna has what she calls her big door moment. It's a physical ritual. Before she steps out, she does a full body tap, keys, wallet, phone. She compares it to the pat-down you get at airport security.
We all do the Macarena at the door. Wallet, keys, phone.
The Macarena, exactly. It's a non-negotiable checklist. And what's important here is the tactile nature of the ritual. She isn't just thinking about her keys. She is physically confirming their presence. This grounds her.
And once that ritual is complete, she engages in this very mindful commute. She walks, she people watches, she observes the weather, the light, the sleepy faces.
She remains externally focused, but Jake's commute is the exact opposite.
Oh, completely. He relies entirely on public transport, which he describes as loud, chaotic drama. People arguing with ticket machines, overlapping conversations, the screeching of the train.
It's sensory overload. So to survive this, he relies on his headphones. He essentially equates his headphones to his brain. If he forgets them, he is defenseless.
And his primary survival strategy on that loud bus is to just stare out the window and, quote, zone out.
Zone out. This is an incredibly useful idiom for daily life. To zone out means you detach your attention from your immediate surroundings. Your eyes might be open, but your conscious mind has wandered away.
The lights are on, but nobody's home.
Right. The sensory input of the bus, the noise, the crowds, it's all still happening, but you are no longer actively processing it. It's a psychological retreat.
Let's do another audio drill here. Zone out. Notice how native speakers don't say zone out. There's no gap.
Exactly. We link the consonant sound at the end of zone directly to the vowel sound at the beginning of out. Zone out, zone out.
Zone out. Try it with us. I just zoned out for a minute.
Perfect.
But I want to push back on the way we normally talk about this. In our hyper-productive culture, zoning out is usually framed as a bad thing. It implies laziness or a lack of focus. But looking at Jake's situation, is zoning out necessarily bad?
That's a great question.
If you're sitting on a chaotic bus at 7:30 in the morning, maybe your brain absolutely requires that blank space. Maybe zoning out is a necessary defense mechanism to protect your cognitive bandwidth for the workday ahead.
There is actually a lot of neuroscientific backing for that idea. When we zone out, the brain often switches to what is called the default mode network.
The daydreaming network.
Right. It's active during mind wandering and passive observation, and it is actually crucial for memory consolidation and creative problem solving. We tend to view every minute of the commute as time that must be optimized.
Right, like listening to an educational podcast. Present company accepted, of course.
Of course. Or answering emails on the phone. But forcing the brain to constantly consume information prevents it from synthesizing the information it already has. Jake's zoning out might be the very thing that prevents him from feeling completely scattered when he finally reaches his desk.
That makes so much sense. I want to tie Anna's door checklist, that boring, repetitive pocket tap for the keys and wallet, directly to the experience of mastering a language. Because learning to use words like quirky, scattered, or zone out fluently doesn't happen through massive, exhausting weekend study sessions.
No, it really doesn't.
It happens through small, boring, highly sustainable actions. You need a language pocket tap, a non-negotiable daily checklist.
Like maybe mentally narrating your commute using 3 new idioms while you stare out the bus window. It's the consistency, the mundane repetition that builds the neural pathways.
So here's a challenge for you listening right now. Think about your own morning commute. How does it compare to Jake's free entertainment on the bus? Write down a short paragraph about your commute in your head right now and use the idioms quirky, scattered, and zone out.
For example, you could say, my train ride is pretty quirky because I always sit in the exact same seat. If someone is sitting there, I feel totally scattered, so I just put my headphones on and zone out until my stop.
That is a perfect native-sounding C1 level description of a morning. But eventually, the commute ends. The transition is over. It drops us directly into the deep waters of the workday.
You arrive at the office, or you sit down at your home desk and you open the laptop. The deluge begins.
The deluge. The moment that screen lights up, the emails, the direct messages, the calendar invites, they all hit at once. Anna has this visceral description of this in the text. She says that by 9:30 a.m., she already feels swamped.
Swamped. The visual imagery of this word is so potent. A swamp is not a clean, flowing river. It is a dense, muddy, overgrown wetland.
Full of alligators.
Probably. When you say you are swamped, you're saying that you are bogged down. The tasks are thick, the progress is slow, and you are surrounded on all sides by demands. You are wading through deep water.
It feels much heavier than just saying, I am busy. Busy implies a high volume of activity, but swamped implies that the volume of activity is actively impeding your movement.
Right, you're stuck. And if you stay in that swamp for too long without a break, you hit the next evolutionary stage of workplace stress. You become frazzled.
Ooh, frazzled. This is a beautiful, evocative word.
It goes way beyond physical fatigue. When a piece of rope is frazzled, the ends are frayed and coming apart. When a person is frazzled, it means their nervous system feels overcooked, disorganized, and frayed.
It's the feeling of having too many competing priorities attacking your attention simultaneously until your brain just feels messy. My favorite analogy for feeling frazzled relates to technology.
Let's hear it.
Imagine you're working on a web browser, and you have 50 different tabs open. And suddenly, somewhere in one of those 50 hidden tabs, an autoplay video starts blasting loud audio.
Oh, I hate when that happens.
Right. You are frantically clicking through every tab, trying to find where the noise is coming from, but you can't isolate it. That chaotic, disorganized panic.
Yeah.
That is exactly what it feels like to be frazzled. It's internal noise.
It's the cognitive load of unmanaged task switching. Anna's defense against becoming frazzled is a really interesting tactic. On a good day, she says she identifies a few easy, low-friction tasks early in the morning, and she whips through them.
To whip through, this implies immense speed, but also control, like the crack of a whip.
Exactly. It's not a panicked speed. When you whip through a stack of emails, you are executing them with precision and momentum. You're clearing the underbrush before tackling the heavy lifting. It generates a feeling of competence that acts as a buffer against the swamp.
So we've got idioms to describe positive morning momentum like whipping through tasks, feeling in control, and idioms for the negative fatigue, feeling scattered or frazzled. Now let's talk about the practical application of these words, because this is where the real power of advanced vocabulary lies.
Using words like swamped, frazzled, and whip through isn't just about sounding poetic or smart. It is a strategic communication tool, particularly in professional environments.
The words you choose actively dictate the power dynamic in a conversation. Let's explore that. How does the choice of vocabulary change the perception of a worker under stress?
Think about a scenario where a manager approaches you with a new, urgent project, but you are already way over capacity. If you respond by saying, I am too busy, I am really stressed, I have too much work.
You sound overwhelmed. You sound like a victim of your schedule.
Right. It triggers panic in the listener because you seem out of control. But if you use the vocabulary we're discussing today, you completely change the framing. Imagine instead you say, I'd love to help with this. I'm a bit swamped with the quarter-end reports right now, but let me whip through these urgent emails, and I can give this my full attention this afternoon.
Do you hear the difference in that cadence? It is the exact same underlying reality. You have too much to do, and you cannot do the new task right now. But the framing is entirely different.
Swamped acknowledges the heavy volume objectively, without whining. Whip through demonstrates that you are highly capable and possess momentum. You aren't apologizing for your reality, you are managing it.
You sound like a professional navigating a heavy load rather than a frantic employee drowning in it. Let's do a slowed-down role-play segment here. Imagine we are coworkers.
Okay, I'll be the coworker needing help. Hey, do you have a second to look over this presentation for me?
I really want to look at it, but I'm a bit swamped today. Let me whip through these budget approvals first, and I'll come find you.
Perfect. Listen to the pacing there. The intonation should be calm and steady. I'm a bit swamped today. You drop the pitch at the end of the sentence to show control.
We want to actually dictate 3 professional email templates for you to use right now. You can mentally copy and paste these into your own life.
Template number 1, managing a client's expectations. You write, Hi there. I am currently swamped with the final review process, but I will have this document back to you by tomorrow morning.
It's clean. It's professional. Okay, template number 2, signaling efficiency to your team. You write, just letting everyone know, I managed to whip through the backlog of support tickets so the queue is clear for the weekend.
That projects extreme competence. And finally, template number 3, dealing with a close colleague and asking for grace. You write, let's touch base on this tomorrow. I'm feeling a bit frazzled after that 3-hour strategy session, and I want to make sure I'm giving your project the focus it deserves.
Notice how that last example protects the relationship. You're blaming your lack of availability on being frazzled by a prior event, which makes your boundary setting feel entirely reasonable to the colleague. You protect your energy without causing offense.
And protecting your energy becomes incredibly critical as the day grinds on. Because even if you manage to whip through your morning tasks, even if you navigate the swamp with perfect grace, you inevitably hit the physiological wall of the afternoon.
The afternoon slump. The source material highlights this beautifully. Anna refers to lunch as the hero of the day. It's the great divider.
But she also warns about the danger of the working lunch. She points out the severe consequences of eating too fast while hunched over a laptop, trying to maintain productivity. If she tries to force the momentum of the morning into the afternoon without a proper reset, she falls victim to a very old, very true concept.
She brings up the proverb, haste makes waste. This is such a foundational piece of English phrasing. Haste makes waste.
Haste means excessive, frantic speed. Waste refers to squandered time, effort, or materials. So doing things with too much haste ultimately forces you to waste time fixing the inevitable mistakes.
It perfectly describes the illusion of productivity. In the modern knowledge economy, we often equate speed with efficiency.
Yeah.
But if you're frazzled and you try to whip through a complex legal document or a sensitive client email,
Haste makes waste. You send the email with the wrong attachment or you copy the wrong person. Now, instead of saving 10 minutes, you have to spend an hour doing damage control, apologizing, and resending the information.
haste makes waste is the universe's way of taxing your impatience. And because the afternoon is prime time for mistakes born of fatigue, it is also the time when social demands like meetings, quick calls, brainstorming sessions tend to multiply.
Jake introduces a crucial survival tactic for this part of the day. He realizes he cannot attend every meeting and still protect his focus. So he says he has to learn how to politely wiggle out of things.
To wiggle out of. The physical imagery here is fantastic. Think of someone stuck in a really tight space, making small, side-to-side movements to slip free. When you wiggle out of a commitment, you are escaping it, but you're doing so gradually, carefully, and without causing structural damage to the relationship.
But this raises a thorny ethical question in the workplace. Is wiggling out of something just a polite corporate term for lying? If someone invites you to a meeting and you wiggle out of it, are you just deceiving them?
That is the big question.
It's a fair question, but looking at how Jig operates in the transcript, it is fundamentally about boundary setting, not deception. Wiggling out doesn't mean faking a doctor's appointment. It means using soft negotiation to redefine the commitment.
Right. So instead of a flat, aggressive, no, I will not attend, wiggling out looks like asking, could we perhaps handle this specific issue via email? Or, I'm swamped this afternoon, could I review the notes afterward instead of sitting in?
Exactly. You are slipping out of the tight spot of a 1-hour meeting by offering a lower impact alternative. Let's put this into practice.
Let's do it. I'm going to act as a stressed language learner trying to explain a stressful day and a sudden schedule change to a friend. I'm going to intentionally use simple, clunky words, and I want you to play the supportive English tutor and give me gentle corrections.
Okay, I'm ready. Let's hear it.
Hey, man. Today was very bad. I had too much work. I did my work too fast and made a big mistake. My brain is very tired. I have a meeting later, but I want to escape it so we can get coffee.
Okay, I totally understand what you're saying, and your meaning is clear. But let's upgrade that vocabulary to sound more natural and expressive. Instead of saying, I had too much work, what if we used that swamp imagery?
Oh, right. I could say, I was completely swamped today.
Perfect. And instead of, I did my work too fast and made a mistake, remember our proverb.
Haste makes waste.
Exactly. And for your brain being very tired and messy.
I am so frazzled.
Yes. And finally, instead of saying you want to escape the meeting, which sounds a little like you're breaking out of prison, it's a softer way to say that.
I'm going to try to wiggle out of it.
Brilliant. Now put it all together.
Hey, man, I've been completely swamped today. I tried to rush my reports, but haste makes waste, and I made a huge error. I'm totally frazzled. But I'm going to try to wiggle out of my 4 p.m. meeting so we can still grab that coffee.
That sounds incredibly natural. That is exactly how native speakers talk to their friends about work.
So here's a quick challenge for you, the listener. Describe your typical afternoon right now using at least 3 of these idioms. Pause and speak it out loud. Try to use swamped, frazzled, and wiggle out of.
It really helps to map these words onto your actual lived experience.
And navigating that afternoon slump and wiggling out of meetings eventually brings us to the final challenge of the day, knowing when to stop.
Calling it a day. The clock strikes 5 or 6 or 7, and you face the great modern dilemma. Do you keep grinding, or do you stop? The source text touches on a deeply relatable phenomenon here. Anna talks about the feeling where your brain literally leaves the building an hour before your physical body does.
You're sitting in the ergonomic office chair, but your consciousness is already on your sofa at home.
This is where the idiom "call it a day" becomes a psychological imperative. To call it a day means to make a definitive, conscious decision to stop working. Not because the work is
The
finished.
work is never finished.
Right, but because you have reached the limit of your effectiveness, you are declaring an end to the effort. It's a boundary.
Jake echoes this necessity with another excellent phrase. When he reaches that point of diminishing returns, he says, "Let me cut to the chase."
Cut to the chase. This originated in the early days of silent film, meaning to skip the boring dialogue and get right to the exciting chase scene. In daily conversation, it means to stop dancing around an issue and get directly to the main point.
Jake cuts to the chase with himself. He stops pretending he is going to finish that massive spreadsheet and admits that if he doesn't call it a day right now, he's going to pay for it tomorrow.
So you call it a day, you cut to the chase, you pack up and you commute home. What happens next is arguably the most critical part of the entire 24-hour cycle.
The transition home. Anna has this beautiful description of this transition. She enters her home, puts her bag down, changes her clothes immediately, and just stands in her living room. No television, no music, no podcasts. Just silence. She allows her shoulders to physically drop.
What she's doing is establishing a somatic boundary. The physical act of changing clothes and standing in silence is a signal to her nervous system that the threat level has decreased. The swamp is behind her. And her stated goal for the rest of the evening is to engage in something she describes as wholesome.
Wholesome. It's a word that feels like a warm blanket. It's highly evocative.
It is. Wholesome implies something that is purely good for you in a simple, morally and physically healthy way. It lacks drama. It lacks toxicity. A wholesome evening isn't about extreme productivity, nor is it about extreme escapism.
It's cooking a simple meal from scratch. It's listening to a jazz record. It's reading a physical book instead of doom scrolling. It's restorative.
And the ultimate goal of a wholesome evening is to wake up the next morning feeling our final key vocabulary word, rejuvenated.
Rejuvenated. It comes from Latin roots meaning to make young again. When you feel rejuvenated, you have reclaimed your energy. Your mind is clear, the fragile edges of your nervous system have been repaired, and you are prepared to face the new day rather than hiding from it.
But achieving that state requires avoiding a very specific trap, one that Jake falls into frequently. Jake talks about the phenomenon of revenge bedtime procrastination.
I know this one too well.
We all do. He gets to the end of a swamped, scattered day, and he feels like he had no time for himself. So, to reclaim his autonomy, he tells himself he will just check his phone for a few minutes in bed. And suddenly, it's 1:30 in the morning. He asks himself, what did I just do with my time?
He identifies this explicitly as going overboard. We talk about going overboard with the snooze button in the morning, but going overboard with digital distraction at night is equally destructive.
By staying up late to reclaim his time, he's actively sabotaging his ability to feel rejuvenated the next day. He's guaranteeing that he will wake up scattered. It's a vicious, self-perpetuating cycle.
So compare your evening habits right now to the ones mentioned by our podcast hosts. Are your evenings truly wholesome? Or are you carrying the frazzled energy of the office all the way to your pillow? Are you going overboard with screens to numb the exhaustion of the swamp?
This is the power of acquiring this specific vocabulary. When you can name the behavior, you can begin to manage it. If you can look at your phone at midnight and say, I am going overboard right now, and this is preventing me from rejuvenating, it creates a moment of cognitive friction. It disrupts the habit.
Let's draft a casual conversation script using these idioms for a weekend plan. Imagine you're texting a close friend. You want to communicate that you're exhausted, but you also want to set a boundary on what kind of weekend you're willing to have. You could use this exact language.
You text, hey, this week has been completely relentless. I've been so swamped. Let's cut to the chase. I have zero energy for a big night out. Can we just do a wholesome weekend? Maybe grab a coffee and walk through the park. I desperately need to feel rejuvenated before Monday.
That is how a highly articulate, emotionally intelligent adult communicates. It's honest, it uses native-level idioms perfectly, and it protects the speaker's well-being. Now, we want you to create a journal prompt for yourself later. Compare your own work-life balance to these routines. Identify the habits that cause you to go overboard.
But before we go into any silent reflection, it is time to lock in everything you've learned. We're going to build the ultimate daily tracking and quiz challenge.
Let's do it. First, create a daily log using 3 new idioms to describe your afternoon tasks. Write it down in a notebook. Also, we suggest creating a daily habit tracker based on the non-negotiable steps we discussed today.
Right, the door check, the mindful walk, the polite wiggling out of tasks. Track those small, boring, sustainable actions.
Now, the replacement quiz. I'm going to give you a simple, clunky phrase, and I want you to say the advanced idiom out loud before the expert gives the answer. Ready?
Let's go.
Replace, I am very busy and drowning in work.
Swamped.
Replace, my brain is tired, messy, and overcooked.
Frazzled.
Replace, I carefully escaped the meeting.
Wiggled out of.
Replace, I did my tasks very quickly and efficiently.
Whipped through.
Replace, I made a mistake because I was rushing.
Haste makes waste.
Replace, I'm officially stopping work for the day.
Calling it a day.
Amazing. If you got those, you are well on your way. You now have a rich emotional vocabulary to turn a basic daily routine into an engaging narrative.
Normal life is beautiful when described vividly. We encourage you to use these bite-sized chunks in your daily interactions. And as promised, we recommend a 10-minute silent reflection exercise to help find your personal voice.
Ask yourself, how do I want to narrate my reality? Do I want to be the person who simply says, I was busy, flattening my entire human experience into a single uninspired word? Or do I want to be the person who acknowledges that they were swamped, who recognizes when they are frazzled, who actively wiggles out of unnecessary burdens, and who intentionally calls it a day to pursue a wholesome evening?
The words you choose don't merely describe the world around you. They construct the psychological architecture of your mind. If you label a stressful morning as chaotic, you will feel panic. If you label it as quirky, you afford yourself grace.
If you label your fatigue as just being tired, you might push through it. If you label it as being frazzled, you recognize the need for a structural reset.
If the language we use actively shapes our psychological reality, then upgrading your emotional vocabulary is not just a linguistic exercise. It is a profound act of self-care.
We want to leave you with a final thought to mull over. If the language we use shapes our reality, how might calling your morning quirky instead of chaotic, or deciding to call it a day instead of giving up, actually change the physical stress in your body tomorrow? Think about how it might change how you breathe on the bus, how you sit at your desk, and how you close your eyes at night. Take these words, quirky, scattered, swamped, frazzled, wholesome, rejuvenated, and weave them into the honest story of your life.
Let the nuances of your vocabulary match the nuances of your reality.
Thank you for bringing us along with you on this deep dive today. Take care of your nervous system, mind your words, and we will catch you on the next one. Enjoy your 10 minutes of silence.